Vlim and Vlam and Big Granite. Vlim and Vlam were always hard at work in their shed beneath the shed. You could hear them if you put your ear to the ground and listened carefully. Tap, 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 ding, 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 bang, bang, bang. Sometimes crack as the stone broke in two. The busy gnomes got hold of some big granite, and you know how tough granite is to break. Bash, bash, bash. But Vlim and Vlam love nothing more than breaking stones and finding out what's inside it. Sometimes stones break easily, say chalk or flint. Sometimes stones are so tough to work the gnomes had to take a tea break and then start again. Sometimes stones break in half like you slice an egg at breakfast. Sometimes you have to chip, 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 chip away at the outside to get to the inside. Sometimes stones make a lot of dust. Whew! Vlim and Vlam found sparkling crystals inside their stones, beautiful colours like orange and blue, wiggly lines and sharp bits. To put it bluntly, or should I say sharply, stones are wondrous things, especially to gnomes on the inside and the outside. In their workshop in the shed beneath the shed, Vlim and Vlam have a lot of tools which are very shiny because they've been used so much and they are really loved a lot. Here's the hammer, there's the chisel, here's a mallet, there's the sandpaper, all neatly arranged on the shelves. They have a grinding board and a slate for chopping on, too. There are buckets for water, green ones, yellow ones. Sometimes you have to wash the stones to see their special glint or how beautiful they really are. Oh yes, never forget to wear your safety gear. Vlim and Vlam have 2 sets of goggles to stop flying shards, 2 masks to stop clouds of dust, an apron each to keep their best gnome clothes clean, and some bright yellow safety jackets so they can always be seen. They both have a pair of big green boots to protect their feet because it's cold and wet in the shed beneath the shed sometimes, and sometimes they're out and about. Now I know what you're wondering. What do you mean, shed beneath the shed? Well, quite simply, the upstairs people have a big shed in their garden, and beneath it is hidden another shed. And that is the shed beneath the shed where Vlim and Vlam live and do all their stonework. So let me tell you the story of Big Granite, because I promise you the granite was so tough Vlim and Vlam had to work all through the night to break it up. And it was the night of the full moon, so Vlim had a good idea. Blimey, Vlim. Vlam, says Vlim. This granite is hard work. We might be up all night. I know, since it's night and the upstairs people are in bed and the moon is big and round, why don't we take our big granite and do it in the garden, upstairs? Great idea, says Vlam. We can roll the granite along our tunnel up to the light of the moon and sit on the nice soft grass instead of our rough shed floor. And that's just what they did. First, they rolled big granite along their main tunnel onto the moonlit grass beside the shed, big shed. Then they got their best wheelbarrow and put all their tools and safety gear in it and went upstairs. Ding, 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 tap, 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 bash, 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 all in the light of the moon. Vlim and Vlam worked so hard, and what a noise it made. Soon shards of big granite were flying everywhere. Lucky they had their safety specs on. Soon clouds of granite dust were rising up like smoke above Big Shed. Oh, how excited and happy Vlim and Vlam were doing their stonework under the big bright moon. But then all that banging and tapping, bang, bang, bash, bash, tap, tap, bang, ding, dong, woke Fred Fox up under his den in the brambles. "What's all that racket?" he called, and made his way down the garden to find out. "Oh, don't mind us," says Vlim. "We're just doing a bit of stonework. You know how it is once gnomes set to work. There's no stopping us." "Yes," said Vlam gleefully, "and see, our big granite here. We'll be up all night." Fred Fox looked on and became interested. He said, "Usually I go out raiding bins at night, but this stonework looks like so much fun. Can I help with Big Granite?" "Oh yes," says Vlim. "Many hands make light work. We need help to sweep up all the dust." "And put it in our dustbin here," says Vlam. "Great," says Fred Fox. "I will brush up all the dust with my bushy tail and sweep it into the bin." And he started straight away, flicking his tail this way and that and tipping all the dust into the dustbin. Ding, 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 dang, 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 boom, boom, boom. Meanwhile, Vlim and Vlam carried on their work into the night, but Suzy Squirrel was woken in her nest in the tree that grows over Big Shed. "What's all that racket?" she called. "Oh, don't mind us," says Vlim. "We're just breaking up Big Granite, and it's going to take all night," said Vlam happily. Suzy Squirrel was curious. She bounced down her branch to see what was going on. It was so interesting to see the two gnomes hammering away at the stones. Bam, 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 bash, 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 ding, ding, ding. And Fred Fox whipping up all the dust with his bushy tail. "Usually I go round collecting nuts and hiding them at this time of night, but it looks much more fun breaking up Big Granite. Can I help you?" Suzy said. "Oh yes," said Vlim. "With your little paws, you can pick up all the shards." "Yes," said Vlam, "and hide them in that basket over there." Suzy Squirrel was really pleased to have such a good job and began immediately scampering up all the shards. Ding, 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 tap, 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 crack, crack, crack. Vlim and Vlam and Fred Fox and Suzy Squirrel were so hard at work they really didn't realise they woke up Burly Badger too, who lives in the sand dunes beyond the garden gate. "What's all this racket?" he grunted, peering from his burrow. "Oh, it's only us," says Vlim. "We came to break up Big Granite under the full moon." "And it's sure to take all night," says Vlam, looking very pleased. "Well," says Burly, "usually I'd be up looking for roots at this time of night, but rock breaking looks like really fun. Can I help?" "Definitely," says Vlim. "We've been working so hard, we're really hungry. Can you find us something to eat?" "Yes," said Vlam, "and working Big Granite is such thirsty work. Can you find something for us to drink?" "I'll be right back," says Burly, and hurried off to his burrow in the dunes. Minutes later, he reappears carrying 5 root pies and a big bucket of root brew to drink. "Delicious," says Vlim. "Delightful," says Vlam. And they had a big full moonsicle party before they got back to work. Every time the wheelbarrow was full of shards, Burly took them to the big heap in the shed beneath the shed and emptied them to save the gnomes a lot of hard work, and when the dustbin was full of dust, Burly took the bin and emptied it onto the dunes behind the garden, where it melted into the sand. Dink, 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 tap, 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 bonk, bonk, bonk. Vlim, Vlam, Fred Fox, Suzy Squirrel, Burly Badger had just about finished their work on Big Granite when the bedroom light appeared in the window of the house of the upstairs people. All the commotion had woken up Mr. Boulder. He opened his window and looked out. "What's all this racket?" he shouts down the garden. The two gnomes and the animals stood stock still in case Mr. Boulder should hear them. But after a while the window shut again. "We'd better clear up and clear off," says Vlim, "in case Mr. Boulder comes out." "We'd better make a run for it and get gone," says Vlam. And that's just what they did. In a flash, the gnomes gathered up all their tools and gear into the wheelbarrow, said thank you and goodbye to their kind new friends, who quickly scarpered home, and they too bolted back to their shed beneath the shed. Then the sound of footsteps. Tramp, 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 stamp, 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 ramp, ramp, ramp. Mr. Boulder came marching down the path. "Where are you? I know you're here somewhere, whoever you are," he growled, and shone his big torch in every place. But no, he couldn't see no one, and no, he couldn't see nothing but a few shards, some dust behind the big shed, and the strange smell of rooty things. With that, Mr. Boulder stamped his feet once more and then went back to bed. Meanwhile, in the shed beneath the shed, Vlim and Vlam were laughing a lot. They escaped Mr. Boulder in the nick of time. They looked at the basket of shards and the dusty bin and empty cups of root brew in the wheelbarrow, and Vlim said, "Excellent night's work, Vlam." And Vlam said, "Well done, Vlim, best big stone breaker." They took Big Granite out to admire it. It was now half as big as before, but lovely and smooth. "We can polish it later," said Vlim. "It'll be so shiny when the sun comes up," said Vlam. With that, they both did an enormous yawn. And fell fast asleep on the floor of the shed beneath the shed. And guess what? They still had their boots on.